very rapid rate. 75% of the construction in the United States in the last 30 years is due to suburban development. So without any notion of postmodern thinking, I knew that things weren't ever going to be the same. Strip malls were replacing open fields all around me. And so seeing the old and struggling farm that was near my house sold off and plowed under and turned into a grocery store was hard to watch. And I tried to, in reasoning on it, looking back and trying to find a positive way to view it, trying to see that maybe the grocery store fed more people than that farm ever did, that it was good for the depressed economy, whatever it was I needed to tell myself, and there was growth coming to the area. And as a painter, I didn't want to approach that topic and vilify it, but I didn't like it either. So somehow, in a lot of my earlier work, I avoided it. I sort of intentionally avoided any notion of man-made development because I was torn in how to view it. I didn't know what was gained or lost yet in that process, or if it was really progress at all. This is a few paintings from that idea. And so eventually, moving away from the Midwest, I've spent most of my adult life on the East Coast and began to paint my environment in urban settings in relation to open sort of rural settings, but still somehow skirting the issue of suburbia. And I just saw architecture in urban areas as more exciting to paint, and it was more about shapes at that point. And at that point, though, I would go back to Indiana, and I started to think about that in relationship to what I was painting as far as urban settings. And I started at some point to see it objectively, and it was more of something that I wanted to paint, that it was more for me that if I painted that. And so, of course, suburbia has been approached and addressed as a topic by artists in so many different ways, heavily addressed. Looking at artists like Ed Ruscha, who really created an iconography about the suburban landscape. Also, I looked at a lot of photography. I'm very influenced by photography, such as the new topographic photographers of the man-altered landscape. Mrs. Beschers, I really like their work. And then I also love the work of Jeff Browse and his interpretation repetitively of the suburban topic. And then, of course, addressing the granddaddy of all suburban development, housing, Levittown, which is in New York, a massive housing project that took place in the late 40s and early 50s. This is a great aerial shot of the first 6,000 houses that were built. Projects like this were socialistic in nature, looking at the group more than the individual, which is exactly what my grandparents and others of that time were interested in. And but ultimately, as far as inspiration, it came back to Richard Diebenkorn's work. He really had a sense of the landscape that I related to as a painter, not just because of his topic, but also his sense of paint. The last slide is from the Berkeley series, and this is from the Ocean Park series. And also, to me, he dealt with suburbia in an honest way, without going to the extreme of viewing it, painting it negatively either. It was just an honest portrayal. So I thought that I could start to make work that let the viewer see their own morality within it. I wasn't interested in becoming an environmental activist or even an expert on suburban development. I think I'd finally accepted that I was from suburbia and a product of it, and try to be a bystander of it and a reflective gauge of it as a painter, at least in my own experience. And I also just wanted to try to make good paintings, and that's really my ultimate goal. And so during my time in this program, I've explored other mediums besides paint, such as photography and using three-dimensional objects. And I worked with the artist Jim Peters as a mentor, and he really got me to see that